Welcome to this week's edition of the Gridiron, sponsored by Patriot Chevrolet. I'm your host, John Brown, with the head coach, Chad Brubaker. Springford closed out its regular season with a 56-0 defeat of Phoenixville in the Pack crossover game. Coach had to been happy with that Pack result in the crossover compared to the one of the previous year.
Why has everybody got to keep bringing that up?
It's once again, it is what it is. But once again, way to kind of get
2022, we won our Pack crossover.
That's all that matters anymore. Correct.
Yeah. Our kids for the second week in a row executed very well offensively. Did everything they needed to do defensively. Had a block kick on special teams, block punt for a touchdown. So, all in all, going into the first week of playoffs coming up, we feel pretty good where we're at. Still have to get better, always striving for that, but feel pretty good about where we're at.
I know we don't talk about them a lot on this show, but a couple things to talk about has been your punt block. That's been a real strength of this team here this year. Getting after punters, even have a couple good returns, the simple things like in high school football, catching the ball, not letting it hit the bound. We've done a really good job, I feel like, in our punt game this year.
Yeah, and we've gotten better throughout the year on that. Earlier in the year, we let a couple drop and roll, and that is the most irritating thing in the world to me. We tell our punt returners, just call for a fair catch.
Just catch it, yeah.
Especially on turf, you're probably saving a minimum of 10 yards, probably closer to 15.
Yep.
Just come up, catch the ball. They can't touch you. You're fine. But we've done a better job of that. Also, we've traditionally been very good at punt blocks. Yeah. Coach Mick has taken over that, has had that team for a long time. Coach Nestle took it over this year and just continued. We made an effort this year really to a little bit more effort to focus on special teams in practice, and we've kind of divvied out we've kind of spread it around a little bit more in our staff, which helps us, if we delegate that, now Coach Mick can really focus more on defense.
Okay.
Overall. Coach Rodenbaugh does the punt team. Coach Nestle's overseeing, but is aided by Coach Hopkins and Coach Palmer on kickoff and kick return. And so divvying that out a little bit more is really helpful because it allows other guys to really, when you have a deep staff, we talk about a deep roster, but you also have to have a deep staff that, you trust guys with. And the younger guys, that's a way to dip your toes in. I mean, that's how I started. That was my first responsibility, really.
Some special team stuff.
Some special team stuff. And kind of, kickoff and kick return were my original babies when it comes to football. And I care a lot about those things. But, that's how you get your feet wet, and that's how you learn to scheme. And we do scheme those. It's not just
go out there and go.
Not just roll out the same thing every week. We have different punt blocks that we do. We have different punts that we do. We have different kickoff returns that we do, different kickoffs. So I think that's really helpful overall. And I think there's a lot of times where people don't spend a lot of time on that. Now, Ridley, they can block. They come after punts. So
we're going to talk about it and think. But this is truly this playoff game is going to be three facets. You're going to have to be really good at all three facets.
Well, in playoffs, everybody's good, right? So, that's not, breaking news or anything, but you're absolutely right. You have to,
and if you have a weakness, somebody's going to find it at this stage along the game.
And the biggest thing in playoffs really is protecting the football and trying to turn the ball over on defense. So if you can do those things, on our records, there's a whole playoff section, and there's a win totals, and there's a losses totals, and the averages or whatever, and then overall. But it's divvied out. So if you look at the win totals, the turnover margin is plus. If you look at the losses, it's a minus. And
football cliche, but those sort of things.
It is, and you can overcome those things if you're playing a team that's not as good as you.
Sure.
But that is huge come playoff time.
All right, so we're going to talk some more about Ridley later in the show for our district matchup here. But let's get back to Phoenixville. You called it on last week's show. You said be ready to see some Gage Schwanger. Gage had a huge game for you, 2 big catches. You got him involved back on defense a little bit. So really promising for you and the staff to see Gage make those contributions like he did last week for you.
Yeah, Gage, we had hadn't really had Gage. Well,
in like
he's
a month,
been on the
essentially.
field a little bit here and there, just trying it, but just wasn't quite ready to go. Lost him on the first play of the Manheim Township game, so that's a long time for him. He's a senior, and he's been chomping at the bit and working hard and going to treatment every single day and on weekends. And he finally is. He's not 100%, but he's enough that he can be effective. Obviously,
difference maker for you. Yeah.
That was great to see him, back in the lineup.
Right, because at this stage of the game, like teams have to prepare. You can't just focus on one guy that stops Springford. Like, you can spread the ball around. There are guys that can be running the ball, throwing the ball, catching the ball. There's a lot of different ways that teams have to be ready to defend you guys.
Well, we have, I think, 5 different receivers with over 15 receptions. All of them have touchdown receptions as part of that. And, Matt, we've talked about on this show, my criticism early in the year on Matt was like, take what they give you, be on time. Well, that has, the last 2 weeks, Matt was 11 for 11 against Norristown. He was 10 for 13 against Phoenixville. So that's not bad.
Yeah.
And he's doing a better job of that.
And you're not putting the ball in the air 20-some times a game. You're situational football.
We played.
But the idea is, you're getting to the point of where you're saying, like, all right, we can run it, we can throw it, that sort of thing. Whatever they're going to dictate and let us do, we're gonna do our best to go out and try and do it.
Yep.
All right, Coach, good stuff. Let's take a look at the offensive highlights from Springford, Phoenixville.
So first play, there's a blitz off the edge. Matt does a nice job of rolling out of it. He threw this ball like 44 yards in the air off his back foot, and maybe not always the greatest of ideas, but Mason Scott was behind the defender. He does a nice job. Would have got more on it, but 51's right there in his face. But, we'll take that. This is Gage Swanger, who we have back now. Gage ran a sluggo route on this. Nice, easy throw for a touchdown. You'll see from the end zone copy. Good protection. Matt has plenty of time to see and delivers the ball. This is a pin pull concept with Mike Bendowski. He gets into the end zone. From the end zone copy, you'll see a nice kick out by Dan Winters and Mike Scalia pulling around. There's the kick out by Dan Winters and Mike Scalia pulling around and running interference. This is just a crazy play by Matt Zollers. I'd like to say I taught it, but you can't really say that. So we had a receiver run the wrong route here. He's in the way of what he wants to do. Matt pulls it down, sees the corner come out of coverage, and just lofts it down the field to Gage Swanger for Gage's second touchdown of the night. So pretty easy run, but tough throw. This is Will Fish. Will Fish does a great job on this because we had the second line in here, a lot of the second line guys, and we didn't block this very well at all. And Will gets, we didn't block the linebacker there. The linebacker picks off our pulling guard, and Will just gets into the end zone by himself. Mo Rhodes, his first touchdown of the evening. He was our player of the game this week. Does a nice job finding the hole there. And then he capped off the night with a 61-yard touchdown, which we'll see in a second. Mo comes running outside zone here. A.J. Felino with a good block on the edge. And then A.J. actually hawks him and makes sure that no one can catch him from behind there. Great job. Offensive line, you see guys getting downfield, making blocks, and that's what you want to see.
If you love them enough to relearn math so you can teach them math, then surely you'll check nhtsa.gov/the right seat to make sure they're correctly buckled in the back seat.
There are 16 million children struggling with hunger in America. That's 1 in 5 daughters, sons, neighbors, and classmates who don't know where their next meal is coming from. Yet billions of pounds of good food go to waste every year. It's time we do something about it. Feeding America is a nationwide network of food banks that helps provide meals to millions of kids and families in need. Visit feedingamerica.org to help them feed even more. Together, we can solve hunger. Together, we're feeding America.
Welcome back to the Gridiron, sponsored by Patriot Chevrolet. I'm your host, John Brent, with the head coach, Chad Brubaker. All right, Coach, before we talk the defense here, it's official. The District 1 bracket's out. We're doing our announcements here. Tickets are available through the District 1 website, I believe, too,
They
right?
are. I posted those earlier today on both Facebook and Twitter.
Twitter machine has that, so once again, you can buy that. Here's a look at the bracket this year. You guys got yourselves that home game, and you're the 8th seed playing Ridley. If we get the graphic up there again, we'd be able to show, like, there's a lot of in-league matchups.
You want us to start
over? Yeah, just leave it up there, Brandon. We'll talk about it. All right, we'll start the whole segment. You ready? All right, here we go. Welcome back to the Gridiron, sponsored by Patriot Chevrolet. I'm your host, John Brennan, with the head coach, Chad Brubaker. All right, Coach, before we do talk about the defense here, the District 1 bracket's out. It's official. Everything's ready to go. Home teams are set. There it is. You guys can see it at home.
So we're in the top half of the bracket as the 8th seed. We have a home game.
Yeah.
I just want to state for the record that my math was correct.
Your spreadsheet stuff is on fire, yeah.
My spreadsheet was on point.
Well, I was texting you whatever Saturday. I was like, you sure you guys are going to?
It's not all updated yet.
Yeah, okay. Yeah, so you guys had that out there. So winner of your game is going to play the winner of Garnet Valley and Quakertown in the first round. Then
Right.
No sense in really going for there. But once again, the one thing I noticed, and we talked about it a little bit, there's a lot of in-league matchups in this field, like PVO and J, Coatesville, Downingtown, East. CB East is playing CB South or something like that. Like, there's a lot of CB West. There's a lot of in-league. I think North Penn plays Pennsbury during the year. They've already played it. So, I mean, there's no real 100% solution, but some people.
There is a way to get away from that.
Oh, okay.
People don't like it. I like it.
Okay.
But a few years back, we talked about regional leagues. Now, the problem with that is there's no more PAC, there's no more Central, there's no more Suburban 1, there's no more Del Val.
And football, we're saying football
6A regions, because there at the time there was 36 6As, and that divides nicely into 4 if you do the math.
Yeah, I know that math.
9,
I love math, yeah.
9. So you have 2 non-league games. You play your 8 opponents in your region, and then the top 4
from the regions
go to the district playoffs. And a lot of people, there's people that have issues with that because it would break down the traditional leagues, but it would resolve a lot of problems. It would resolve that type of thing. Because here's the deal. No matter what, like, you can't get away from that. It just is what it is.
Sure, yeah.
So,
yeah, once again, you see it in other sports too. You'll have teams from the PAC play each other in the first round. Teams that won a championship through a playoff. They're an away team. There's going to be flaws in the system no matter what it is.
Well, the regional system resolves
all of that right there. But I'm saying all the sports with all, it doesn't really, the power rankings makes it fair, but sometimes, you try and avoid certain situations. Because once again, if there's 8 games this week, 4 have played already during the year, I would say, right? 4 have already, if not 5, if I can't remember the top of my head.
I think it's 4.
4 have already played at some point during the season too. So the idea of playing somebody new, I guess, is taken away.
If all right, let's take PV for instance. All right, they happen to match up with O and J.
Yep.
Like, you can't just say all of a sudden, okay, you already played O and J, so now you're going to play, North Penn.
Right.
All right, or you're going to play you can't just say that because maybe, let's say, North Penn, their quarterback had been hurt for 5 games, and that's why they're 5-5 or 6-4 or whatever. And now all of a sudden they have their quarterback back. Well, that's not fair in terms of how the season went. They've got, North Penn, if we use them as the guinea pig here, their quarterback's back. Now they have to overcome what they lacked in the regular season.
Sure.
So there's no good way to do it unless you have a regional schedule like the WPIAL does, by the way.
District 7 for those.
District 7, that's
right.
correct.
So up for debate, but once again, district tickets are available through the District 1 website. It's
$7.
not Ticket Spicket this week. It's not Ticket Spicket.
But it's something like that.
It's like a Ticket Spicket, but you got to buy them through District 1, but you put the links on your social media for the
and
tickets.
The tickets are $7. That is not a Springford issue. That is a District 1 price set.
Like, it's for everybody. Students,
for
everybody,
yeah.
$7.
Yeah.
I'm gonna do the PA, so I'm gonna pay $0.
Oh, good.
Yeah, I'll work. Once again, I'm trying my best on the PA people. I'm trying my best. I'm getting better. There's baby steps. I'm getting baby steps better at it. All right, so once again, your defense pitches another shutout this week. Do they have some yards gained running a little bit? Sure, but once again, you guys find a way to put your foot down. You know, like once again, some of those yards could have came a little bit later in the game. It showed early that you guys meant business on the defensive side of the ball out there.
Yeah.
So you saw what they did well, and you're going to take it away.
Well, at halftime, I actually told the kids, I read the tweet from one of the Mercury reporters who said Phoenixville actually only has one less first down than Springford. Now, the score at halftime was 35-0.
40, yeah, it could have been 42 or something.
Yeah. You know, but we had a few big plays, so we didn't have first downs, and had the block punt that takes away from offensive yards or whatever. So, yeah, I mean, our defense played well. You know, we were rotating guys in early. Luke Pajevich didn't play last week. He's going to obviously be playing this week. So, yeah.
Yeah, so once again here, another shutout. And once again, this is another week you're going to say, if we can hold Ridley to X amount, we're going to take our chances.
Well, that's, you know, yeah, I mean.
It's always been the case in all these discussions we've had. All right, let's try the defensive highlights from Springford, Phoenixville.
So right here, they run a inside zone and a zone read, and what a great job by Shane Lewis. Shane Lewis really pushes the wide receivers back into the play, and Matt Yurko's chasing it down from inside out. Here we get a block punt. The block punt comes from Zach Zollers, although Will Fish was right there too, and the ball just jumps right up into Mike Bendowski's hands, and he scoops it up for the touchdown. You know, we love trying to block punts, and that's, you know, if you get one, that's what happens. Great job here. This is Matt Yurko coming off the edge, Luke Hall coming off the edge. Zach Zollers gets the sack on a little bootleg, and so great job. We'll take that. Here is Bryce Roberts. This is with the second group, but Bryce Roberts does a nice job coming off the block and making a couple tackles.
All right, Coach, so once again in those highlights, we're seeing the guys being opportunistic with the ball. You see, like, things we haven't talked a lot, like chasing down the ball, like that gang tackling. That used to be like a huge staple. I don't know if just because of the highlights or whatever, but I'm starting to see a little bit more of that, everybody coming to the rescue.
Well, that's interesting.
Right? I think that's something we've
I don't know if that's true or not, but, you know, I choose the highlights based on, you know, negative plays or
yeah.
But yeah, our guys have been doing a great job all year, and you know, it's hopefully we're healthy Friday, which is a big thing about playoffs.
Yeah.
You know, there's a couple things with playoffs, right? One is you got to be healthy. All right. Two, it's oftentimes about matchups, you know, in terms of, you know, well, we got through the season and did very well because most of the teams we played were passing teams, and now you get into the playoffs and all of a sudden they got
running
five
down
linemen
your throat,
that are 280 pounds.
Yeah.
So there's a lot of different things that, you know, go into consideration. But, you know, this year I think it's a wide open field. I really do. I think, you know, probably the Chestmont teams might be a little better than everybody else, but they're certainly not unbeatable. And we'll see how it plays out.
Yeah, and they're gonna eliminate one of them on themselves on Friday.
They'll
night.
eliminate two of them in the first two rounds.
Oh, that's right. Yeah, that's right. Yeah, see what I'm saying. So, all right, Coach. Well, we're going to take one more commercial break here, and we'll be back with the preview of Ridley for Districts.
Worried about your friend but don't know how to reach out?
You can say how are you or get a fake tattoo. You can ask with an app if it works for you. You can chat with them in VR. It's so good. If you think you should check in, yeah, you should. Whatever gets you talking.
Reach out to a friend about their mental health.
Whatever gets you talking.
Learn how you can help at seizetheawkward.org.
Hey guys, it's me, Isabella Gomez, filling in for Smokey Bear because he's got more to say than just...
Only you can prevent wildfires.
Like, if you're outside enjoying a barbecue, don't let a hamburger distract you from fire safety. Make sure you aren't dumping your hot coals or ashes onto the ground because that could start a wildfire. So take wildfire prevention seriously and let's save the world one day at a time. Juntos con Smokey Bear, podemos hacerlo. Go to smokeybear.com to learn more about wildfire prevention.
Welcome back to the Gridiron, sponsored by Patriot Chevrolet. I'm your host, John Brennan, with head coach Chad Brubaker. All right, Coach, what we've been waiting all season for, postseason football for you guys. And first time in a couple years, I feel like we've had maybe that CB East, was that the last home one we had? Or did we play like a Downingtown?
No, we played Downingtown East.
We played Downingtown East at home once. So, but once again, we're at home. We're not traveling all the way down the blue route to play Ridley like many moons ago. I remember that game for you guys in districts. They're gonna travel here for you guys here for Friday night. But once again, boy, it looks like on paper, just looks like a great matchup of two really good football programs.
Right.
They do the same things. You see them in the playoffs year after year, that sort of thing. Just two good programs here.
When you have an 8-9, that's supposed to be the toughest
the toss-up,
game, really.
yeah.
That's a toss-up game. So obviously we're going to have to play well. Ridley is a very storied program in District 1 in Delaware County, and that's the only time, by the way, that Springford and Ridley have ever played.
Was that one district? I think this year you guys made it all the way to that district final too, right? Wasn't it?
2012, yeah.
See, okay. I remember like it was yesterday.
Yeah. So they are a very solid all-around football team. In terms, you said earlier about finding weaknesses. It's really difficult to find weaknesses in their team. We're going to have to play very, very well, to be successful on Friday night.
Yeah, it looks like once again they're going to take their opportunity to run the ball, but they have some playmakers on the outside that can make some plays for you, and they'll get them involved in the football game, not just by throwing to them, but they'll get them in that jet motion, and they'll get them involved well too.
And they do some wildcat stuff too to try to do that, So, we're going to have to be prepared. I think we have a good game plan. Hopefully we execute it in practice and feel good about it and comfortable with it as we get closer to Friday night. But, when you get to playoffs, everybody's good.
All right, let's take a look at Ridley on offense.
So Ridley's a little different. Actually, for a while there, they were really primarily a running team. Now they're spreading people out. They're going no huddle. They're going fast. There you see throw over the top. But they still run the ball. They got tough kids. You see them get outside here, a little bit of a late hit out of bounds.
They got it. They got it. Solid, yeah.
They'll give you a lot of trips. They'll give you a lot of double twins. Mostly one back, but you see here they're in two backs. They go fast. They're getting signals from the sideline. So we're going to have to, and they sub a lot too on offense, which is really interesting. They sub a lot. I mean, that's pretty easy right there, like that kid. But that's a good athlete that made it look easy.
Yeah.
So right here again, they love to throw in the red zone, especially. Again,
that's a really, that ball can be picked off, but it's
through
right
in
where
double
his guy
coverage,
can play.
but he trusts his receiver, and the receiver makes plays. So
here they are running the ball again here too.
Yeah. Yep. So, they've scored a lot of points throughout the year. They've scored a lot of points in big games. So we're going to have our work cut out for us defensively.
All right, and what are you going to see from the Ridley Raiders on defense?
Well, for the most part, they're an odd front, I should say. They play a 3-4. So, Phoenixville was a 3-4 last week. But in some of their games, they did bump a little bit into an even front. So we're going to have, they're multiple. We're going to have to make sure that we identify the defense and get into the right plays.
Yeah, so once again, the offensive line we've talked about this year, you're trying to make strides every single game out there. The communication, once again, is really going to be that key with your offensive line about who's going where and where we're trying to take
Well,
guys.
Ryan Shaner has done a tremendous job. He's a center. He's kind of the quarterback of the offensive line. He identifies the front, and he gets everything started, and then other guys work from there. So Ryan's done an excellent job. He's a 2-year starter, played a little bit, actually, as a sophomore. Ryan gets us, he gets us started on the offensive line.
All right, let's take a look at Ridley on defense.
All right, so sack.
Ooh.
They hit. They hit. They are tough kids, and they play hard and aggressive. They have a bunch of sacks throughout the year, and it's not just one guy hitting the quarterback. It's multiple guys.
And they're instantly in the backfield here, Coach.
Yeah.
There's no resistance.
A lot of blitzing right there. They're bringing 5. They have 5 on the line, and they're bringing 6 or 7 oftentimes. You see here they try to run a counter back the other way, and there's nothing
going.
there.
Yeah.
No.
Now, I always like to ask you this one here as a
All right.
Who did you ask for film of from Ridley? You know, you get like
we just got their last 3
You
games.
that seems to be your answer all the years. Just
Well,
ask for 3.
here's the deal with that. So one of the things about that is, okay, I could ask for, and other teams do ask for different games, but as long as within those last 3 games there's teams that run similar formations to us,
Okay.
you know, I'm fine with it, because ultimately at the end of the day we're looking at formations. We obviously we're looking at how they line up to those things. We're looking at players and their skill sets. Offensively, it doesn't matter, right?
Okay.
It really doesn't matter. Or for our defense,
Yeah.
it doesn't matter. But, you know, I want to see where they're at right now. You know, if I request a game from, you know,
Middle of September.
week 2 or week 3, you know, they could be completely different by
Okay.
now. I mean, there's teams that go through things, they have a loss or 2, and all of a sudden they change what they're doing. So, you know, we are able to not only get those games, but there's ways to find other games.
And
as
once
well.
again, it's always been I feel like the case has been you asked for the last 3, but other teams ask you for specific games. Like the PV games always be getting
that
like,
was asked for.
So once again, it just seems like you're just doing this, and other teams seem
Again, it depends. I would ask for different games if the last 3,
if
they were
if you
all
played
wing T.
Right, you're not asking.
You know,
I got what you're saying.
So, you know, I look over the schedule, and you know, sometimes there are ones that I would, you know, pick from earlier, but very rarely.
I would have been like, then once again, this is me. I want to see Garnet Valley. I want to see him play against Garnet Valley.
Yeah, but see, Garnet Valley doesn't help us one bit, you know,
And
from an offensive side
Okay.
of the ball, because they do things completely different than we do. So
Okay.
that's tempting, but at the same time, like, I want to see them also at their best. Like, they lost that game to Garnet Valley, and I want to see them at their best. Like,
Yeah.
I'm sure they didn't feel coming out of that game like they played their best. So we
know,
want to
like-
see them recently, and we want to see them at their best.
Another one just to keep in your mind for the future years, maybe like a close game. See how they handle like an end of the game situation.
Sure.
I like that one. Keep that one in your back pocket,
Gotcha.
Coach. All right.
Yep.
All right. Make sure you tune in next week as we recap the game with Ridley. For the head coach Chad Brubaker, I'm John Brennan. See you next time on the Gridiron.